Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring the Nightfell core book. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this setting for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, where the sun has been murdered and the world has been plunged into almost complete darkness, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about the Lyvar and the Rizadrin. Let's start with the Lyvar, also known as the Nightfellings, or Nightlings for short. They are fugitives from the underworld, who quickly learned to use their unique skills to hide from the dangers of Yurmen. Their stealth skills, instinct and wandering habit allowed them to survive and hone their abilities to infiltrate wherever they please, taking care not to arouse the horrors that lay in the dark. It was the year 582 AL, when the tragedy of the last sun struck Yurmen. That day impacted not only the surface, but also, and more severely, the underground. The horror that broke free in Thurinthian thickened the darkness of the underworld, and each species had to confront the creatures that escaped Enfarun. The underground was a scene of horrific massacres, and the Lyvars thought immediately of escape, where other races attempted futile resistance. That place, once their homeland, became a silent expanse of bones and bare stone, jagged with ruins of civilizations that no longer exist. The Night Fae were so named by the new life forms found under the sky, and never knew anything but the night eternal. The echoes of that distant land in the bowels of the earth still call for the Lyvars, who safeguard their heritage with fond memories of wandering through the tunnels and the immersion of the deepest darkness. The time spent on the surface brought this breed closer to the inhabitants of Yurmen, although habits fostered underground are hard to extinguish. Over time, the Lyvars can become sincere friends, and even be able to resist their obsession with playing pranks and stealing valuables. Lyvar characters will almost never smile candidly, always looking as if they are forcing a sneer, as if hiding an aversion to social relationships. They prefer to travel freely, rather than settling and loathe having to submit to the interests of others. They tend towards selfishness, and sometimes exhibit a total lack of empathy, but because of their strong survival instincts and intuition, and their sharp senses, they are valuable as adventuring companions. When it comes to their racial traits, their petite stature and agility are the traits that most closely resemble their Fae ancestors. Often compulsive hoarders and kleptomaniacs, they go out of their way to recover tools useful for their travels, and have a real obsession with flatware, since they are not able to manufacture them independently. They have leathery and scaly skin, with dark, neutral colors, ranging from gray to brown. Rare albino specimens have also been spotted. Their all-black eyes are well adapted to darkness, and their senses are very acute. When it comes to ability score increase, you are pretty high when it comes to dexterity and wisdom. When it comes to age, Lyvars live roughly as much as humans but reach maturity very quickly. A Lyvar at the age of 12 is already considered an adult, although their physical aging is similar to that of other breeds. When it comes to alignment, the Lyvar make neutrality their main philosophy. When it comes to size, they are pretty small, barely reaching 3 feet in height. Because of that, their legs are quite short, so they are not very fast when traversing the ground. However, they are surprisingly speedy and agile when disengaging from enemies. That is, you can actually disengage as a bonus action. You have dark vision, and you are proficient in the perception skill, having a noticeable advantage in enclosed and dark spaces. You have some innate magical gifts, such as prestidigitation, the jump spell, the invisibility spell, obtained at different levels. When it comes to languages, you can speak, read and write Common and the Stone language. Concerning your names, the cryptic and fleeting names of the Lyvar perfectly reflect their stealthy nature and minute appearance. When it comes to male names, you have things such as Krun, Fesmes, Vistul. Concerning female names, you have Aliliu, Aselit, Gaxili. You also have nicknames from the world below, such as Rocky Stick, Blue Flame, and Grey Clump. Now let's talk about the Rizadrin, also known as the Moon Satyrs. When the world was still young, the Satyrs diversified into various cultures, following their love for different aspects of life and nature. Among them, the Rizadrin were distinguished by their gloomy and stubborn character, and their attachment to the stones of the earth. In the Lunar Age, they are all that remains of the entire species of beast men. Although Yurmen's history is mostly driven by the actions of men, their discoveries and their failures, the roles of other species were not negligible, as they contributed to the flowering of the world, to its decline, and eventually to its fall. Children of the primitive energy that permeates the earth itself, steadfast as they are dexterous, the Satyrs were a prosperous and culturally diverse people when the first men had not yet begun to shape the history of the world. Among the Satyrs species, there were three races: the Golden Satyrs, the Silzarin, also known as Snow Satyrs, and the Rizadrin. The former were distinguished by compassion and curiosity towards other peoples, especially men, where the latter avoided contact with other species, populating the forgotten ravines of the underground and binding themselves to the dark and the stone. The Golden Satyrs, called Veronsin, were the least feral of their kind, and easily integrated into the cosmopolitan cities and provinces of humans, to the point that even the sages of Thurinthian and later Sivanis asked for their advice. Lagoran himself was actually a pupil of the satyr Malfarin Brightmane, and during his travels in search of knowledge, he was often accompanied by the wisest among the Veronsin. Although inherently peaceful, several times throughout their history, the satyrs have shown themselves to be fearless warriors, and none can recall a time when they yielded before the defenses of an ally or to their ancient worthy roots. Even in the face of the end of the world, which many of their wise men had predicted, the satyrs were among the few who put aside their fear and mistrust, bringing together one last resistance under a single banner. In fact, the recluse Rizadrin, among all of the satyrs, were the ones who survived the catastrophe in large numbers. Despite the horror that, rising from the depths of the world below, had struck them with even greater ferocity than that which had destroyed their surface relatives. Because of this, once they reached the surface from their underground homes, the Rizadrin had to forcibly renounce their isolation in order to join forces with other species and survive the darkness. The prominent feature of the satyrs is their peculiar and intense sense of faith, loyalty, and truth. They have a strong connection with the spirits of nature that surround them, always approaching most situations with extreme seriousness and severity. When it comes to their racial traits, these creatures of the underworld share some of the animal features of their predecessors, if to a lesser degree. Their horns are a symbol of manhood, authority, and courage for males, while for women, they are an indication of wisdom, fertility, and beauty. Their very dark complexion is furrowed by white streaks that take on unique shapes, often resembling primordial symbols. When the Rizadrins rose to the surface, the beauty and majesty of the moonlight that greeted them assumed, in their eyes, an importance comparable to the subterranean origins from which they had fled. When it comes to their ability scores, they are pretty high in charisma and dexterity. Satyrs are particularly long-lived by virtue of their connection with primordial energies. They live to about 200 years of age. When it comes to alignment, although not inclined to emotion and empathy, they do have a tendency towards lawfulness, and generally abhor anything that is evil. They are of medium size. They are above average when it comes to walking speed. They have dark vision. They are resourceful, that is, they are proficient in insight and survival skills. They also have primeval energy, being able to transfer some of the energy of creation into weapons to enchant them. They are also able to cast the Threefold Goddess Gaze cantrip, giving them an advantage in attack rolls. Concerning languages, satyrs can speak, read, and write Common and the Stone language. Concerning their names, the names of the Rizadrin, moon satyrs employ names common to the traditions of bygone ages. These names often have a solemn or serious sound, but at the same time elegant and full of memory. So you have male names such as Artar, Leonisio, Mathior, and female names such as Adanira, Hartaria, Invea. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about the new options and classes. I think it's going to be very fun to play as either the Lyvar or the Rizadrin, because they are monstrous species. In the case of Lyvar, if you wanted to play a different sort of goblin-like creature, this is the species for you. They are very cunning, sneaky. I think they are perfect for a roguish sort of character. If you like to sneak about, attack from behind, carry out hit and run sort of maneuvers, because of your ability to easily disengage from the enemy, this is the species for you. And because of your small size and your advantages when it comes to moving in cramped and dark places, they are also the perfect candidate to get into places that other people cannot usually go into because of their size and their lack of adaptability to those places. In the case of the Rizadrin, they are very cool, very magical. There is a certain mystique to them because they are so connected to the spirits, to the energies of creation. So any sort of character class that you take using this species is going to feel magical, especially because of your ability to enchant weapons and to use the Threefold Goddess Gaze. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.